me brain dead and asleep. You want us trapped while you all laugh behind the scenes. You want us sick, you think we're dumb. You want us blind and you want us drunk. You want us poor while you get more of everything. But you don't get to tell me what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell me what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so I don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. You want us tricked, you want us numb. You want us scared and you want us stung. You want us shocked and you want us blocked in every way. You want our minds, you want our time. You want us framed up in your crimes. I hope you know that it's time to go and we're taking names. 'Cause you don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell us what is true. You're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word.
Well, hold on. We're cutting the intro. We're cutting the intro short. Now, hold on. Where am I hearing the music in the backdrop? Chris, sir, how goes the battle? Hold on. You are on mute.
I'm on mute. Okay, that's better, right?
Yeah, dude, that's good. Someone, Steve Britton in our locals community said, Viva, you're going to run the song for 3 full minutes. We're cutting it short. That song, 5 Times August, Liars, Cheats, and Crooks, and you have the link to Apple Music there to make it #1. Chris, thank you for coming on. For everyone who doesn't know, this is Chris Pavlovski. You look younger and younger every time I see you. You and Trump get younger with age. It's wild.
We got a little younger after the last election, so that's what it was.
CEO of Rumble, for anybody who might not know that. Chris, I took this interview so seriously, I had to shave my beard so I look a little less haggard and ragged. Sir, how goes the battle?
It goes. It's I think we won the battle as far as I'm concerned right now. I think we got to take that battle to different pastures like Canada and see what we can do over there. But the US is looking pretty good, I think.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, and I'm watching Bongino as regularly as everybody else. Yeah, there has been a significant victory on the American front, and going to keep a little bit of pressure on the Trump administration not to hire too many swamp creatures back into an admin. But no, taking it to Canada is the goal now. But Chris, latest developments with Rumble. There have been a bunch. I mean, you talked about it yesterday with the quartering, and some people might not know who. I keep wanting to say Dr. Nefario, but that's Russell Brand's character out of a Despicable Me. Dr. Disrespect. You signed a big gamer for Rumble. What does that mean for those who don't know who he is, and what does it mean for Rumble?
Yeah, so he's one of the largest gamers, I think, on the internet. Top 5 at least. Some days top 1, #1. And we have been really pushing the gaming sector a lot recently. And what I wanted to do is really kind of give it an injection, the same way we kind of gave Rumble an injection when we brought on Dan Bongino. We wanted someone to really take that pole and really, really kind of lead the gaming side. And that's what we did with Dr. Disrespect. He's now going to start on December 2nd on Rumble. He'll be exclusively providing content to Rumble Premium. So he'll be multi-streaming both on YouTube and Rumble, and then exclusively providing that content to Premium. So he's going to be bringing his whole Champions Club to Rumble and all his viewers to Rumble, which, just like Dan, when he came to Rumble early on in late 2020, it was the rising tide that raised all boats. And that's kind of the effect that we're looking for here in the gaming community. We got politics on lock. The next 2 categories are going to be crypto and gaming. Those are that's what I'm really, really focused on when it comes to growing Rumble. So that's what we're going to be stepping the gas pedal on right now.
And we're going to get to actually the crypto part in a bit as well. But, a lot of people think that Rumble is just a free speech platform, and so good for conservative commentators or the left-wing commentators who get turned into right-wing extremists. Do you know, like Dr. Disrespect? He does streams that are like 7 hours long. They get close to 1 million views, sometimes if not more. Have the gamers expressed any issues that they have on YouTube in terms of why Rumble is the alluring alternative, if not becoming the mainstream platform?
I think the issues that people see when it comes to Rumble is that we don't have that viewership that other platforms have in that category, and that's exactly what he's going to help do. He's going to help drive that viewership, help raise bring in the tide to raise all the boats. So that's probably the largest complaint. Obviously, we have like product features that we need to really kind of integrate. One of them is going to be gifted subs. That's going to be very important for the gaming community, and we're hoping to roll that out here before the end of the year. And then in terms of everything else, I think we're pretty up to speed now that we have like the super low latency for all our premium members and super high quality streaming. I think we're really ready for it. And I think this is the future for 2025 on Rumble, is really attacking these two categories and really ultimately kind of building something that is unique, something a little different than YouTube and very different than Netflix, and bringing in kind of like a hybrid model of let's call it a YouTube Premium / Netflix. The one thing that YouTube Premium doesn't provide is having exclusive content with creators. We want to take it a step further and provide that through Rumble Premium. So anybody that's a Rumble Premium subscriber is not only going to get the premium experience, which is access to early features, the green check mark, a no advertising experience, but they're also going to be able to get like high quality content, exclusive content, maybe documentaries, maybe movies in the future, whatever we can attract on the platform. It'll be open to whoever wants to bring content into premium. And I believe we can have something very, very special, both on this hybrid experience of YouTube and Netflix. And that's where we're putting the gas, pouring the gas right now. And that's where we're stepping on the pedal. And Dr. Disrespect's the latest edition of that.
The YouTube Premium, $100 a year, and you get no ads and all of the other perks that you mentioned.
Rumble Premium, yes.
Rumble Premium, sorry.
YouTube Premium, I believe, is now going to be going up to $20 a month, so it's going to be significant.
I've never even decided. I've never got YouTube Premium because I don't care to support them any more than I have to. I've got Rumble Premium, and absolutely what I meant. Actually, just one quick question, because this is coming from Encryptus on our local side, and it's going to dovetail into another question. What other tech products verticals Rumble is going into? And do they want to hire a highly skilled AI expert? Chris, I might have to give you this. I'm going to give you this guy's name afterwards.
Yeah, definitely not publicly. Pass that on, because we're really kind of pushing the pedal on recommendations in AI to try to help discovery a lot. So that's something that's very important to us right now. In terms of like new products that we're going to be offering in the new year, and I announced this I've said this a few times now, but what we want to introduce a creator program that is going to be unlike any other creator program out there. So early next year, we're going to be launching our own creator program, which I think can revolutionize the way in which we're going to pay out creators. It's going to be very rewarding to creators that work very hard, put in the hours, and provide exclusive content to Rumble Premium. And that's something that we're really, really keen on launching with our new dashboard for creators. So, you hit certain metrics and you do certain things within Rumble, you'll then qualify. And it won't be a subjective qualification. This will be a very objective qualification based on milestones. You hit those milestones, and then you'll immediately be enrolled into this creator program, which will then provide you far greater revenue opportunities than you typically see on any other platform. So that's what we're driving towards as the new thing for Rumble in early 2025. And gaming and crypto are the two kind of categories that we're looking to propel that.
Now, I'm going to ask you this question because I know that, first of all, there was a lawsuit filed in terms of the advertiser boycott or the organized campaign to demonetize Rumble as a platform. Anything public that you can discuss in terms of the status of that lawsuit and how how that interplay now is working with Rumble Studio and the real-time auction for ads on Rumble Studio?
No update that I can provide publicly yet. Where it did leave off is that obviously we've updated our lawsuit to include more defendants in the GARM lawsuit, and we've obviously saw GARM disband itself a couple days after we filed. So no updates yet, but it's something that I think is going to change very rapidly. And what we did say in our earnings call recently is that we did get one advertiser that did cancel us come back. I'm unable to say the name yet, but they'll be deploying ad budget in December. So things are changing, and I'd like it to be faster, but sometimes slow and steady wins the race. We did get one advertiser back in the fold, which is great news, and it's a big, very well known advertiser that everyone knows.
Well, and it happens very slowly, then all at once when they realize, this is where the eyeballs are for long format content. And I don't care what they say. People want to advertise where the eyeballs are. Set aside the political discrimination that they've been engaging in. Second Amendment channels, Chris. Have you? Is Rumble looking at those? Because I know that they systematically get demonetized on YouTube, and they're massive and have wildly engaged followings.
Oh no, we absolutely are. This is a very important category to us. That's one I already kind of consider part of the free speech category in a way. Like in terms of like drift categories like gaming and crypto, I think they're very much different than what we currently have. But in terms of the Second Amendment gun tube, we're all in on that. We're looking at as much as we can do on that front, talking to as many people as possible to see how we can do that and make that work.
Okay, now last question before we get into the crypto Rumble investing in Bitcoin. Some people are concerned or nervous as to what happens when Locals gets fully integrated into Rumble, or some people are concerned that Locals will cease to exist, that it'll be merged into the aggregate of Rumble. Locals is going to continue to exist as a standalone product, standalone community?
Yeah, so we're at this point, what we're trying to do is give them greater options on Rumble that you can do a lot of these things on Rumble. If you continue to want to use Locals, you're more than welcome to. We find that the bigger complaint right now is that people don't like promoting Rumble and then Locals. It takes away a lot of the oomph. So we're trying to get all those features into Rumble as quickly as possible. So we'll see where that goes. As of this moment right now, we're all about keeping those two brands integrated as much as possible, but also separated. In the sense that platform there's zero plan right now to remove that platform. It's here to stay for the moment.
And I lied. It's not the last one. The last question before getting into the crypto: Netflix ran the one of the Paul brothers, I forget which Paul it was, Mike Tyson fight, lagging, delays, spinning wheels. Rumble is very well. I mean, it's already ahead of the game with Power Slap, or at least it was. Any possibility of getting into that market and not siphoning, but competing with the Netflix?
I do think Netflix is taking pages out of our book. We're the first ones to do that when bringing in slap fighting on Rumble live. And I think that Netflix is going to become more like Rumble in a lot of ways, and Rumble with Rumble Premium is kind of becoming a little bit more like them. And I think there's going to be a convergence of all these markets. It's going to take a couple of years, but it's going to happen. And you're going to see basically a lot of different platforms with a lot of different exclusive content. And it's almost going to be like cable TV with different, cable networks. You're going to have different platforms with their own types of content. And I think a lot of these companies are here to stay, whether it's going to be YouTube or Netflix or Rumble. All these companies eventually will converge, and they'll have their own lanes with their own content, and everyone's going to pick what they like and what they don't like, and kind of go into maybe flip-flop between those different platforms, or maybe be dedicated to only one. But I do see the 1970s and 80s cable networks kind of being the new platforms of today. So I think that's kind of where the market's going to go in the next decade. Remains to be seen, but that's kind of what we're betting on, and that's kind of how we're designing things here at Rumble to go forward.
Okay, very cool. And now the Rumble investing in Bitcoin, publicly disclosed in Investopedia was talking about it, planning to allocate part of its cash reserve to Bitcoin. I'm going to get a second part of that question, but what's that about, and how far along is that?
Well, we just approved with our board that we're going to have a Bitcoin treasury strategy. We're all in on Bitcoin as a company. We love this community. Just like we're moving into the gaming community, we're going into the crypto community. And one of the things that I think is very important is to not be disingenuous when you enter these communities. You got to really mean it, really want to be in it. And I think having a treasury, a Bitcoin treasury, shows how much we mean it and how bullish we are on this community for Rumble. When you look at Bitcoin and you look at Rumble, you almost kind of feel the same kind of ethos, like freedom of speech, Bitcoin, decentralization. It all kind of goes hand in hand. These are two things that operate very close to each other. If there's any company that's going to step into this first and do it first, it has to be Rumble. Rumble is it's the same ethos, in my opinion. So stepping in and obviously we're not the first ones to do it, but like in terms of like a brand platform, we are the first brand platform to do it that I can think of publicly. But it's something that I think is very important. It shows how genuine we are about this community. It also shows that we're pretty confident about the forward years of our business and where it's going to go. So I'm excited. I think that this is a pretty cool move that I think many other companies in the future will follow. I do think this will be a corporate strategy amongst the biggest companies in the world one day. And I think Rumble being one of the first movers is important. And that's what we wanted to do. We want to show our commitment to the community. We want to show that we believe in it, and we want to be there first.
And a treasury means, is it just a hard investment? I don't know. Some of these platforms offer a bit of interest on the investment, but is it just investing a fixed amount in Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's just taking some of our excess cash that we have that we won't need and moving some of that into holding Bitcoin instead of holding cash.
Okay. And the other question that this flows into is in terms of first of all, other cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, any Litecoin, what's the other one there? Ethereum, or is it going to be specific to Bitcoin?
This is exclusively for Bitcoin.
Okay. And then the other question that people are asking is crypto transactions on the platform. I have no idea what goes into allowing that, but is that on the horizon for Rumble?
This is a big step that we want to take. We're definitely looking for a partner right now, and we're talking to a few in order to integrate. And one of the things we're looking for is a partner that's going to be using our cloud. And so if we're going to support their platform, we want them to support ours. And that's something we're very, very much looking at right now, and something that I do want to integrate as soon as possible. So yes, we love the ability for people to tip and to be able to subscribe in crypto. We'd like the ability to pay creators in crypto. How we're going to manage that and how we're going to do it remains to be seen, but it's something that I'm very, very keen on getting done and finding the right partner to do it.
Okay, very cool. And something that you talk about a lot, and I don't think people fully appreciate what it means, or at least what the options are. Rumble Cloud Services is, in fact, competing with AWS. You've built your own cloud, you've built your own services so that people no longer have to be reliant on the highly politicized AWS. Can you flesh that out for what it means for people who might not know that they even need to or want to use Rumble Cloud Services?
Yeah, so Rumble Cloud is a competitor to AWS. It's a competitor to Oracle's. It's a competitor to Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud, and many others. But generally speaking, as we all saw what happened to Parler many, many years ago, companies like Amazon that don't carry the same ethos and the same values as Bitcoin or as Rumble will, press a button, shut you down if they want to. So we came up with Rumble Cloud. We've been building it for the last 4 years, and we launched it this year publicly for the public to use earlier this year. I think is second quarter of this year or late first quarter. And the idea of that is basically giving everybody the option to pick a cloud that has the same values that they might have. In terms of freedom of expression and how we do business rather than the big tech companies. In addition to that, I also believe there's I believe the current market in the cloud business is like an oligopoly. It is an oligopoly controlled by like a couple big companies and control the majority of the market, and they price gouge quite a bit. So not only do you have the ethos that you have with Rumble on Rumble Cloud, but you also have the ability to really cut costs as well. And I think there's an opportunity there to save people a lot of money by moving over to Rumble Cloud. So both on the ethos and obviously on the price competitiveness, that's where we're attacking when it comes to Rumble Cloud.
This is a question from our locals community, Coddlefish, and I think it was on the table a little while ago. Have you considered short clips like Reels added to the platform? I recalled that Rumble was working on something like the equivalent of shorts?
Yeah, so we're definitely, that's something that we've been working on. That got delayed to earlier next year, just because we reshifted our priorities. We're really focused on gifted subs, reposting, and the new creator dashboard and the new creator program. So we want to get those out the door before we get that out the door. So once we get those out the door, a lot more attention will be towards Rumble Shorts.
All right. And now for those who might have missed the last earnings call, and if you know the numbers offhand, viewership, it's an amazing thing when you see like the top 3, the top 5 live streams on Earth or on Rumble. What the most important metrics for Rumble, new users, daily users, unique users, can you share those numbers and how they're evolving over quarters?
Yeah, so the last quarter, we had 67 million monthly active users that we reported, with the majority in US and Canada. I think that's a real important data point, is that the majority of our users are US based. They're not coming from anywhere else in the world. Second, we had record revenue, and we also reported that we're on our way to having sequential revenue growth again here in Q4. So it was for us, it was a very exciting quarter. I think that I'm really looking forward to 2025 more than ever now, with all the new things kind of coming around, and introducing all these new product features. I think we'll be able to have a really exciting year.
Okay, and now getting into Canada a little bit, and Chris, I know you've got to duck out soon, so I won't hold you for too long.
Oh, Canada.
So is Rumble is still out in Russia, not in Russia, still not in France unless you have a VPN, still not in Brazil. Has there been any headway on getting back into the Brazil market?
No, none. Not unless we start censoring creators, and that's not something we're going to do. But I do hope that the US will, now with the new administration incoming, things are going to change around the world, and I'm pretty confident that they will. So hopefully we see change on that front. But Canada, on the other hand, what a mess.
Well, I don't want to get you into trouble. I don't know if I'm in trouble with the government yet. We expect elections in 2025, but those who think everything would change under the Conservatives, maybe you're right, maybe not. But what is the situation in Canada now that there were a bunch of laws passed 2023, 2024, as relates to the internet? Has it made it less competitive, or not less competitive, but more costly and less effective to be doing business in Canada?
Not yet on the law front for censorship. Not yet. I think there's a lot coming that they're proposing that is going to be very, very damaging to Canada, but I'm pretty confident they're not going to get those passed in the next year. And with the momentum against the current government right now, I think we're going to see some change over there. But we need to see it sooner than later. Canada's going to get a real world of hurt. You saw that 25% tariff that.
Yeah. So that I'm going to talk about that a little bit afterwards. But with Canada, with Mexico, it's terrible. Trudeau will work with the Trump government, but he needs to just get out of power, as do the Liberals. But the replacement is not much better, even with the Conservatives, and probably even worse with the NDP.
Yeah, no, you know what I'm afraid of in Canada? I'm afraid of what happened in France is going to happen in Canada. I'm afraid they're going to make deals with the NDP to drop out of certain districts so they can get, or Liberals will drop out of certain districts to get the vote above the 50% mark in those districts. I'm very fearful of that. I feel like that's one route that Macron took in France, which was, I've never seen it before. He lost the popular vote by like 5 million. It was 10-5, and Le Pen still lost because of the way they managed to do the districts and pull out candidates in certain districts. I see Canada doing a really sneaky move like that. I think Canada is going to have to win by a lot more than 50% this time in order to win in the next election. I wouldn't, don't put that past these guys.
No, the NDP is, I think they're even sneakier than the Liberals, because at least the Liberals are in your face with it. A question from Steve Brittany says, if I become a creator, will I be able to integrate with locals and Rumble Premium for exclusive content seamlessly? Also, right now, I seem to be double paying for the creator part and Rumble Premium, which seems redundant.
Yeah, so locals is you're paying for a specific creator. Rumble Premium is you're getting no ads on all creators. So it's a completely different tool and a different product. In terms of content that's there, like every creator might have their own locals, but doesn't mean they're on Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium is a completely different product than what a locals product would be for a creator. So if you love your creator, I recommend just sticking to that creator. And if there's creators that Rumble Premium have, it's like it's a completely different product. I wouldn't confuse the two.
Okay, excellent. And Encryptus, another good one, which goes back to the the cloud. Rumble Cloud needs a Bedrock competitor, an AI platform that is not in bed with OpenAI and their woke models. What is your take on AI and inclusion in Rumble Cloud as an offering?
It's something that we're discussing a lot. We recently provided, H100s over to some another client, Sticker Mule, recently. So they're starting to use our GPUs for their AI processing. But having an actual AI product in Rumble is something that we're still working on the engine of Rumble Cloud more so than getting out some software products and some AI products. But that's something that we're definitely discussing and definitely want to integrate in the future as priorities shift.
Very cool. One last one, Chris, and then I know you've got to go. Our company is heavily involved in the music and teleproduction industry. We also have the ability to recruit new people to Rumble and support Rumble producers. I haven't been able to locate a point of contact from Rumble from Paracleric in our locals community.
So Rumble's open to everybody to register an account and be able to bring on. I'm not sure what exactly you need the contact for, but if there was more detail on like what you're looking for from Rumble on Rumble's end, that would be
and
helpful.
I tell people to tag Rumble and everybody from the team on Twitter, because I think the only other CEO on earth who's equally involved on an active basis is Elon. But you guys are very, very active in responding on
one of the things is we get thousands upon thousands of requests to talk to people in our company, and it's just like, how do you set up an account? And like if it's something that requires like our assistance, we'll definitely assist as much as we possibly can. But like we do have tons of requests of people saying they're going to bring so much to Rumble, and who do I talk to? It's difficult to manage all those requests and try to figure out which ones to prioritize. But we try our best. There's all of us are on X and on Truth, and trying to answer as many questions as possible and help as much as possible.
Chris, it's amazing. You're doing I think everybody watching now appreciates there were several players who were key in turning the world around in the 2024 election, and many of them are on the Rumble platform. Rumble being one, Bongino being the other. I mean, Rumble is it's changing the world. I mean, you know it, and my goodness, it's great to see. Chris, did I forget to say anything, or is there anything you want to mention?
No, let's hope that we can help Canada here in the next year, kind of, shift their direction a little bit in terms of where they've been going. It's not been good. So anything we can do to push freedom of expression in other countries and other places, I think that's kind of like the next frontier for us.
It's got to come from the groundswell of the people. And the problem is I don't see it yet coming from a groundswell of the people up in Canada. There are still too many people who still believe the trucker protest was illegal, and that, what we see going on in Canada right now is totally normal protest.
Yeah, hopefully we see change. I think we will. I think 2025 is going to be an incredible year for Rumble, hopefully for Canada as well, and the entire world. So I'm stoked. I can't wait.
From your mouth to God's ears, Chris, thank you very much for coming on. It's great to see you, and we'll keep in touch.
All right. Thanks a lot, Viva. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Now I got to go kick Chris from studio. I feel terrible doing this. Oh, he kicked himself. Okay. People, first of all, that entire time I was kind of distracted by I feel like I look more haggard without the facial hair than with it. That's Chris Pavlovski. 10 years ago, if you had asked him if he would have foreseen himself being on the forefront of the fight for, I'll be a little hyperbolic, the fight for civilization, I don't think he would have quite seen where this was going 10 years ago. I got to go pull up my original viral video on Rumble. But he's amazing. Everybody should be following him. I mean, I'll put his link up, but Chris Pavlovski, hold on, over on Twitter. What is it? Pavlovski. It is Chris Pavlovski, Pavlovski, Chris on Rumble. Not to be confused with Pavlovski, Artur Pavlovski, pronounced the same way, but Artur spells his with W's. The Polish spelling. Did I miss anything? I think I got everything, and we had limited time with Chris. So fantastic. Chris, if you're still watching, thank you. Now I see in the backdrop, he has not activated his camera yet. John Beaudoin Sr., who you might remember from such podcasts as Viva Fry and John. Now, if you don't know who John Beaudoin is, we'll do the 30,000-foot summary overview. But John sent me something yesterday, and he's working on more stuff. I know John has been working on COVID stats and a lot. John, your mic is on. Just don't do anything embarrassing. He's been doing a lot of great COVID work in terms of stats, and he sent me something yesterday, and I'm like, it's like, is that the person who is that? I didn't understand what was going on in the video. John is going to break it down. Sir, you're on. How goes the battle? You're on mute. Hold on, unmute yourself. The backdrop, I've never noticed the color of your eyes, but the backdrop matches the color of your eyes. You have green eyes?
No, I don't. What are you talking about? I have brown eyes.
Okay, well, they look, maybe it's the reflection of the green backdrop.
No, it's probably interpolation in the color scheme of, well, whatever.
Are you, by the way, is that backdrop so that you can do superimposing backdrop screens? Like to do
Yeah, but I can't seem to get a virtual background working when I talk to you.
So now it's just a green shower curtain. Is it a shower curtain?
I'm going to get somebody's going to yell at me for this. She hates it when I have the green screen.
When I was in CEGEP, which is like the 2 years in between high school and university in Quebec, and I was doing film, we were doing film production, and there was a green screen in the studio. And like an idiot that I was, I wanted to stick something to the green screen. So I didn't have any of that wacky tack, whatever that blue stuff is. So I used a piece of gum. And then the gum got stuck to the green screen. And then the teacher's like, that cost $10,000. And I was like, oh my God, does it? And no, apparently it didn't. The teacher just was hyperbolic and said everything cost $10,000. John, let's get into what the hell's going on, man. First of all, for those who may be meeting you for the first time, a very quick elevator pitch as to who you are.
Sure. Well, I'm an engineer by degree, and then I was in sales of very large semiconductor research contracts for big companies, a lot of military and aerospace, plus Intel, AT&T, and so forth. So I had a career in putting contracts together, large contracts with multi-billion-dollar corporations, sometimes talking to the CEOs, CFOs, and it was all about strategic planning to get people to sign on the bottom line to make tens of millions of dollars. And then COVID hit, and well, I went to get an MBA in my 50s. I got it, but then my son died, and I sat on the couch for a couple of years, and COVID hit. I have 2 other sons. I raised 3 boys pretty much on my own. And then I started digging in. And once I dug in, I'm like, holy crap, they're lying about everything. Not just what I thought they were lying about. Masks work. I knew that wasn't true because I'm an engineer. Doctors don't know a darn thing about it. So then when I got the records of, they said a little girl died, 7-year-old. So I got all the records, and I found out that they indeed said on her death certificate she died from COVID. But I have another record. 7-year-old girl injected, reacted in 5 minutes, vomited for 8 to 10 hours, didn't have a bowel movement for 3 days, and she died. And so they're lying. They're telling people on the death records, the official records from the state of Massachusetts, that people are dying from COVID when they're really dying from the vaccine. And then I started doing data analysis, and I found out stuff nobody in the world has found.
And it is amazing. Like, I've never even thought to ask the question. You sort of assume that death certificates are objective, like motorcycle crash or something. But then when we found out, or at least I found out later on into COVID, very subjective, and they can add whatever contributing elements they want regardless of temporal proximity. And so they could, as with, like, I'll take George Floyd as an example, right. Ignore the COVID aspect of his death and then focus it on the proximity of the knee and call it homicide, ignoring also the proximate drug consumption. Whereas in another case, they could focus on the COVID proximity, even though it's not the most proximate cause of death, to add it as a contributing factor so they could jack up the numbers. So you started doing the deep dive into the data. You wrote a book.
Yeah, I've written a couple of books. It's called The Real CDC, and thank you for mentioning that because I always forget. As
do I. Like, I forgot the title. I was like, the book with.
So I forget to tell people where to go. It's therealcdc.com. It's really easy. Therealcdc.com.
Okay, and the thesis of the book is that you got the stats, you go through the codes to see what was attributed to what, and your ultimate spoiler for the book was what?
Well, there's a number of things. Number one, the COVID overcounting was a massive amount of fraud, which are federal felonies committed every day as a matter of custom and practice by the officials in Massachusetts, medical examiners, chief medical examiner. I do have a lawsuit still. It's at the First Circuit on appeal. against the governor, public health commissioner, chief medical examiner, and 4 individual named medical examiners. I just have another appeal. We can talk about that later against the law school. I think I just won my appeal, David.
The law school was because you were excluded for not having gotten the jibby jab, even though, if I don't want to misremember, a portion of it was online and they still insisted on it. Is that my mixing up case?
Well, that really doesn't have much to do with it. I mean, that was how they conducted the school in the first year. In the second year, they weren't going to do that. So they said, you have to get a vaccine. But I said, yeah, but I have an email with the director of admissions where I said, I can't get the vaccine because I'm deaf in one ear from a kid getting a shot. When I was a kid getting a shot, I'm not getting it. Do you have an exemption? And the director of admissions wrote back with 4 sentences. The first, and here we go talking about the case. The first sentence, don't worry, you're over 30. You don't have to get it. The second sentence, nobody from the school is going to ask you if you got it. The third sentence, if a doctor says you don't have to get it, you don't have to get it. And the fourth sentence, trust me, nobody from the school is going to be first in line for that vaccine. Now, this was August of 2020 before the vaccine came out. And I specifically said the COVID vaccine. So they're saying that the third sentence conditions the prior 2. And I'm saying, no, they're independent sentences. And so we had a discussion with a 3-judge panel in Massachusetts. It sounds like they're going to line up with me and I'll be back in on the contract violations. I don't think I'll be back in on the Consumer Protection Act, which is a separate kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. I mean, small victories 3 years later. And you should be great.
We'll see. I mean, I'm hoping I'm like 99% sure I'll be able to get a jury trial, or at least discovery.
Because it was dismissed at a preliminary stage before even getting to jury.
Oh yeah, it was dismissed the judge told me it's not about standing. He told me I was wrong when I said it was about standing. It was about sufficiently pled facts on the face of the complaint, right? I thought that was standing. But he's saying, no, it's got nothing to do with standing.
No, because you got failure to state a claim, standing, different. You got standing, you've got latches, failure to state a claim. You got a whole bunch of, arsenal to dismiss.
Well, B1 is subject matter jurisdiction, and B6, 12B6 is the failure to state a claim. Both of those are considered by legal scholars as standing arguments, not just the failure, not just the B1 subject matter. But anyway, I don't want to debate that.
So bottom line, the real CDC data was all wonky. Everyone can go back and watch our prior interviews, but the latest. Look, I'm going to play the video just to befuddle everybody as much as I was befuddled when you send this to me. It's a little long. We got to play the whole thing.
You got to say who he is first of all.
Yeah. So this is Joseph. Is it Ladapo or Ladapo?
Dr. Joseph Ladapo is
he's the Surgeon General of Florida, and I like him. And I saw this is why I saw the video. I'm like, that can't be him because it's granulated, it's pixelated. It can't be him. I don't even understand the evasion on the answer. But this is the Surgeon General of Florida, and I keep saying Ladapo, but it's Ladapo. Joseph Ladapo. But listen to this. The question, I think it should be clear enough. I'll play it out.
To help John get traction in his work.
To help John get traction.
Dr. Ladapo, John has tried to get the Massachusetts Information Immunization System database in order to correlate with death certificates to finally answer the question, are they bad? Are they killing people? And he was foiled. They refused to give him that information.
I'll pause it here just for context. This is, are they bad? We're talking about the jab. And we're talking about Florida stats, correct?
Everywhere. Are they bad?
Okay.
If they're bad in Florida, they're bad everywhere. So I'm asking for the Florida immunization information records so that I can determine once and for all what are the reactions people are having and are they dying from it? That's all.
Okay. And COVID jab. We're not talking about measles, measles, mumps, rubella, with COVID. Okay.
Correct.
Is that something that you'd be willing to do? Have John go down to Florida and access that database and finally answer the question?
Just to highlight, would you provide John? Maybe the answer would be, John is a civilian and we're not going to give him access to that. That would be the answer if you want to really just weasel out of it quickly. Listen to this.
Yeah, thanks for your question. So,
I don't understand the dramatic pause here. And I look at is there hold on, stop. There's tension between the two of you. Am I wrong?
Well, so no, there's no tension, I don't think. But I had walked up to his table where he was selling his books and I was selling my books in the lobby. Somebody else was speaking and everybody had piled in. So it was the two of us. So I walked over and I said, hey, Dr. Ladapo, I'm John Beaudoin. I've done some research, and he stopped me and said, "I'm familiar with your work, John." And then I said, "Okay, well, I'd like to offer, pro bono that I audit the public health data of Florida so that everybody can finally know." And he stopped me and said, "I'm not convinced of your methodology. If you could send me a methodology statement, here's my email address. I promise that we will take a look at it." That was pretty much the extent of the conversation. So then an hour later, he's talking and I'm sitting next to him. And some guy from the audience that I know him, and I didn't know he was going to ask this, he asked that question.
Okay, but, and actually, I'm going to take a note just so you can describe. Well, what would a methodology statement look like? Like, what would that look like if you have to describe your methodology? Like, a legit question. What would the answer look like to that?
Well, it's basically what you're going to do. So these are the steps, and this is the risk mitigation in whatever statistics I put out. Here's the risk that they're not correct. So you have to look at it from both sides and just explain what you're going to do and how your methodology is maybe different from others, or basically say what you're going to do. So I sent it to him last night. Sorry.
Okay, very cool. I may ask the other obvious question. Who's this woman and why is her arm on his leg?
It's an obvious answer. That's his wife.
Okay, fine. My goodness.
His wife. He said, well, he told everybody he doesn't go anywhere and speak without his wife, and she speaks also. So wherever he speaks, she speaks with him. That's
what kind of conference is? Okay, fine. I'm going to play it.
That makes things so precarious right now for anyone who isn't playing on the team with everyone else in leadership, all of the stations of power. One of the things that makes it so precarious is that judgment is very tricky, and things that seem to be the right way to go may lead to you getting guillotined, or things that seem like they're the next thing to do may be something that leads you down a path that ends your career and your ability to influence.
John, what the hell is he talking about? Is it like I should let it play out, because what the hell does he mean by the guillotine? But a minute and a half, we're gonna listen.
This is one of the things that I was talking about earlier, and it relates to what Brianna was just saying. It's very tricky, and if you look at the battlefield, you'll see that unfortunately. If you look at the battlefield, it is very sadly littered with the bodies of people with very good intentions who unfortunately turned left when they should have turned right, or ducked when they should have jumped, and they paid a price for it, and it's completely unfair. But unfortunately, currently, that is the shape of the landscape. So with John, this is the first time we met today, and we actually had a conversation today. But it isn't the first time I have. I pretty much consider very thoughtfully every offer or opportunity that is presented to me, and then I have to make a decision about what direction to go. So for the purpose of privacy, unless you want me to disclose more, John, I'll tell you that we had a conversation, and we have some next steps that we talked about, and then we'll see where those go. But that's what I'll say, because we had a private conversation.
I mean, I'm not trying to be obtuse. What the hell was the guillotine part of that statement about? Like, if you report the wrong stuff that's unfavorable, you'll be out of a job, referring to himself or referring to you?
Himself. I mean, I can't speak for him, but every part of that said, if I give you access to the database so that we get the truth to the people, I'm going to lose my job, get guillotined. I don't want to be one who turns left when I should have turned right. I don't want to be one who ducks when I should have jumped. And it was all about, I'm not going to do that because I'll lose my job. That's what I got out of it. I don't see how to get anything else out of it.
And what the request was to access the stats. He has control, I presume, or access to Florida, not nationally, but there is a national Is there a
Yes.
national aggregated database?
Yeah, the national one is called the Immunization Information System of the federal government, which is an aggregate of all the states. The Massachusetts one is called the Massachusetts Immunization Information System, but other states have like the California Immunization Registry, the CARES, and then Indiana has CHIRP. They have different acronyms. They're all the same thing.
I love these the crazy acronyms. Okay, fine. So he's basically saying, unless we're totally misreading it, if you get access and you report something, it'll put me out of a job, and or I might have to say, well, you didn't interpret it properly because there's a certain discretionary element in it. The bottom line, what you believing? What is your belief, or at least what are you able to demonstrate now that the stats would show? And I'm going to go try to pull up the tweet that I think, or the graphic that would show that. But what is the bottom line of where you're at right now, and what information is it based on, and how reliable is your current assessment?
Well, it's a big question. I'll try to get through it as succinctly as I can. It's going to be hard. So there can be no conclusive proof without individual record inspection, not just a death record, but the person's medical file. They may have appeared to have died from something on the death record, but when you look under the hood and you find out what really happened, like if I had the immunization records, a woman who died from a blunt force trauma to the head, who died in the parking lot on the way to her car from her job. She fell down, hit her head, and the blunt force trauma to her head killed her. Well, why did she fall down? She had a pulmonary embolism and passed out. Why did she have a pulmonary embolism? She had the vaccine 2 days before.
Is this an actual example?
Actual one. Yeah, I found that one. Yeah. That's just one small example. So the individual records are where the evidentiary proof is, where if you're before, a judge or a jury, or let's just say the court of public opinion, all the real evidence is in what are the hourly medications they got in the hospital? What are the times they got the medications, the hourly vital signs, the daily imaging, the daily blood labs. All those lead to a forensic investigation or evidentiary proof where that you've causally traced when did their liver enzymes or their creatinine levels go bad? When did their kidneys start failing? And if they didn't start failing after one drug, but they did start failing after another 2 weeks later, you can kind of, doctors can figure it out. That is the type of evidentiary proof I bring. Now, when it does say on the death record, under causes of death, that they got the vaccine and they died from a pulmonary embolism 2 days later, and the death certifier medical examiner looked at the records and stated that the vaccine was the cause of death, then yeah, that you can assume that has been certified. That's a fact. But what the CDC has been doing is they've been deleting the codes that are associated with the vaccine as a cause of death. So they've been hiding them from us, David.
Well, but now that you say it like that, John, I'm thinking maybe that motorcycle guy that they said died from COVID. Well, maybe he had a coughing fit from COVID while driving his motorcycle, and that's why bada bing, bada boom. I'm trying to make a joke and sick.
No, I know, I get it.
But so what's? I mean, look, let me pull this up because I think this might be part of what we want to look at. What are you finding?
So last night I was like, well, let's go look at thrombocytopenia. We know thrombocytopenia.
What is thrombocytopenia again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thrombocytes are platelets. They help you clot. So thrombocytopenia is a low platelet count where you have difficulty clotting. So this happens in a lot of hemorrhage deaths. You end up with, intracerebral hemorrhage. So a hemorrhagic stroke, bleeding in the brain, occurs in the setting of thrombocytopenia. You can't clot fast enough to heal it, so you just bleed. Your brain basically explodes. Same thing with
related to. Is this related to ruptured aneurysm type things, or not necessarily?
A little bit different, but yes and no. I mean, it's two rate functions: scoring and repairing. And if you can't repair fast enough, and the scoring blows a hole through your aorta, yeah, you're going to have an aortic dissection. So I would say that that's not so much. You don't need thrombocytopenia for that to happen. If all of the lipid nanoparticles end up in one part of your aorta, and they transfect there, and all your T cells attack and eat away a hole in your aorta, then thrombocytopenia is probably not part of it. You're going to go anyway.
I'll just read the AI overview. It says it's a condition in which the body has lower number of platelets in the blood, making it harder for blood to clot. Okay, so that's a condition, but not a cause of death.
Well, yes. The ischemia that comes along with it. So it's thrombosis in the setting of thrombocytopenia as well. So you're right. It's a condition. It's not causing the death. The weird thing is that you've got clots going on at the same time you don't have enough platelets to clot.
That is. I mean, I can only ask questions as to what the nature of those clots are. If they're not blood clots, then they might be. I don't know what.
No, they're blood clots. I mean, there's
Okay.
the blood system is dysregulated. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but from the data, even 2.5 years ago, in some of my articles, I've shown that the blood is very dysregulated. And the blood is made in the marrow and the lymph, and the marrow and the lymph are the first signs of cancer that occurred 2.5 years ago. I found it, and now they're through the roof. 400% of normal in Massachusetts for lymph node cancer.
400% of normal, because that's what I was going to get at. Like, I'm going to get at it's the obvious thing, one way or the other.
4 times normal.
Yeah, and one way or the other, there's, I don't know if you call it a signal. Who's diagnosing the thrombocytopenia here? Like, this is based on medical reports, so it's not like the method through which this is determined is no different than the method through which the last decade was determined. That's correct?
Correct. Now, the interesting thing is you can say pneumonia, and they don't really know about pneumonia sometimes, so they'll just say unspecified, so they don't know if it's bacterial, viral, or fungal. Or they say cardiac arrest, which really doesn't mean anything but your heart stopped. Those are kind of generic. When they write thrombocytopenia, they have a blood test that shows a low platelet count. So this one, you can be assured, is accurate. Not some of the others that they write. It depends on the codes. And that's why it's so important to investigate the individual records to determine causality. And the methodology statement that I just sent Dr. Latipo, it's called top-down investigation, bottom-up quantification. So you start with looking for where the hot spots and anomalies in data. So what's in excess, what age group, what cause of death, and everything else. And when you find an anomaly in the data, you go look at the individual records. You can't look at 60,000, but you can look at 200. So if you narrow it down to the 200 thrombocytopenia deaths or the 200 acute renal failure deaths that are in, say, 18 to 44s who are otherwise healthy, then now you have a really good investigational path. You go and look at their hospital files, and it's there where you find the conclusive evidence. You find the conclusive evidence in the individual records using experts to evaluate those records. And once you figure out, if you tie, say, we're talking about the jab, right? So if you tie the jab to the condition over and over and over in those 200, well, now you know that it causes it. You've determined causality. How many did it affect? You go look for the excess back up through the hierarchy of data in the aggregate of everybody. So that's the bottom-up quantification. So now you quantify how many people died. And what I did for acute renal failure, you have it. I don't know if you have it up, but it's over 50.
It's a separate chart. I don't think I have it on the backdrop.
Oh, okay. So
let me see if I can find it.
15,000 excess in Florida alone. It's over 150,000 in the United States. And because the ages are so much younger, the only thing that took more life years from Americans in the last 100 years is World War II. How can you have what you call a public health department of every state, and then the CDC and FDA and NIH? How can they exist and not know that something killed 155,000 Americans? Or in the state of Florida, under the purview of Dr. Latipo, I'm telling him in the methodology statement, I give an example of acute renal failure, which is sudden kidney failure. You didn't have a problem before, all of a sudden you have a problem. And it amounts to 15,400, or if it's in the area of 15,400. It's over 15,000 people going down to the ages of 18 years old. And I mean, I can tell you what it's attributed to, but I can't tell you for sure because the medical files need to be looked into. So the thousands of people that work for a health department who should be investigating this are not looking. And I'm telling them how to look, where to look, how to look efficiently. I have a full 25-page methodology statement I just sent to them.
Acute renal failure leading to death or as a diagnosis?
These are all deaths, but there are a lot of diagnoses that people are still alive on dialysis. Yeah, that would find even more records under Medicare, Medicaid if they let me look at that database.
So that's 15,000 excess in Florida. Which year over which year?
Oh, that was 2020 through 2024 up to November.
Okay. So it's 15,000 over 4 years, and that's compared to
5 years.
5.
Yeah.
Do you have? I can't find it. If you can find it, send it to me in the. There is a private chat. Yeah, send it to me in the private chat. But do you have that broken down over years? Like, is there a way to? I mean, is there a way to exclude the fact that it's COVID itself, or like, I don't know, maybe anomalous in that it was in 2020 before COVID even hit?
I sent you a nice couple of graphs. They're actually in your DMs.
In my DMs. I've got no, I know I got DMs. Let me go check that here. John Beaudoin. Okay, let me see here.
It'll say Florida N17. It'll say N17. 15,300.
Renal failure. Okay, right here, and that's that looks like a tweet. Well, you know what? I'll just bring it up like this. Okay. Here we, okay. Well, that answers the question as to the years. So you got 4,000 more. 4,000 excess. No, sorry. That's the number is 4,000. The excess would be. Holy
Correct.
shit! It'll be roughly. That's a jump of, I don't know what we'll say, 20%. 2019 to 2020. There's no vaccine in 2020. So people are going to say, well, what's that? And then you get a massive bump for the next 3 years. Anybody who's going to want to play devil's advocate for the purposes of not being called an anti-vaxxer is going to say COVID itself causes it, and there's a delay from COVID infections from year over year. So how do you reply? How do you retort to that?
Yeah, very easily. It didn't happen in the first wave of COVID. This didn't happen. Also, if you put up the next graph and you divide by prevalence, by the all-cause deaths, you find the prevalence of cause. The 2020 number all but disappears. Now, what did happen?
Explain what you just said right there. What is it? I'll get the graph in a second, but I got to be.
So this is what I do that other people don't do. When there's excess deaths, a whole bunch, all the causes of death pretty much go up. And if they don't go up in proportion to the large body of deaths that would otherwise occur, I know it's hard to follow what I say.
I'm getting there. I'm going to pull up the next graph as well.
Let me give you an example. If 20% of people die with cardiac arrest, and then an extra 10,000 people die of something, you have an excess of 10,000. Do you expect that 20% of that excess, or do you expect more than that 20%? Well, if the externality, or if the disease caused X, right, it should go up more than the 20%, right? Of the excess, it should be 20% of the excess should also be cardiac arrest. Let's just say cardiac arrest, but it's not. It should be more than that if it was actually causing it. Now, so what I did was you divide everything by all-cause deaths, and you see 2020 all but disappears. Now, there should be deaths in 2020. Here's why. And this is where who's it? Dr. Oz was just chosen for CMS. That's the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services on November 2nd, 2020, put a bounty on patients. I use that word literally. They put a bounty on patients. If they could get a patient on remdesivir, nirmatrelvir, ritonavir, those are called Paxlovid. So Paxlovid or remdesivir or baricitinib, if they can get them on that just on a positive COVID test, and they can somehow get them into the ICU for $1 million, they get an extra $200,000. That's 20% of the entire bill just for using a drug. And if you look at kidney failure, it takes off not in the first wave in the spring of 2020, not in the summer. It takes off later in the year. And I think Florida has a lot of old people, so they get the approval to use it earlier than the November 2nd date. But the November 2nd date's big in Massachusetts and so forth. But anyway, so it's hospital homicides. And then the vaccine also, so it's about half and half. But it doesn't matter what I say. What matters is the omission of conduct to investigate by the authorities who have a legal duty to do so, where the public is in imminent danger of harm. They're not doing their duty, and we are dying en masse.
I'm going to do one thing, and this is not because I'm scared of being on YouTube. It's just because I forgot to end this before. And we should go over to Rumble. So whoever's on YouTube, not many of you, come on over to Rumble now, and we're going to end this on YouTube and carry on. Oh, before I even do that, let me just get the super chat. 90% of hospital patients receive IV therapy, but did you know that 70% of IV bags contain DHP? I don't know what that is. A toxic chemical linked to breast, liver, lung, and testicular cancer and reproductive harm. That's from Barb Ariane. I did not know that. But get your butts on over to Rumble and Locals. We're going to just update the stream and go.